This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 416. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Dude, that was a fun Monday night experience, which it often is with the Pete Carroll team, and often is when you play somebody like Daniel Jones and the Giants. So a cool game, man. A lot of fun. We're going to have tons to talk about. I'm sure you're fired up too, man.
24-3 victory on Monday Night Football. You know, I was fired up to listen to some of the national conversations surrounding the Seahawks after this game. But you know what? As it turns out, when the East Coast team out of the biggest media market in the country gets blown out the way they do, unfortunately, the discussion changes to how inept the one team is versus, you know, just how well of a beating the Seahawks put on the New York team. And I had to tell myself this week, Adam, just be okay with the fact that you dominated a bad team, because the opposite would have been a whole lot worse.
Click on any national clip on YouTube, even if it's titled, you know, something about the Seahawks dominating the Giants, right? And it's going to be 2/3 Giants talk, 1/3 Seahawks talk. But
if you're lucky,
if you do get to that 1/3 Seahawks talk, we've got some people's attention, man. Like, you could see the national media all of a sudden was like, oh, wait a second. Like, look at these improvements. They stacked another draft up. This Witherspoon kid's a godsend. And the talk was definitely glowing as far as the national media is concerned. And I don't think this team's going to be sneaking up on many people for the rest of the year. That's for sure.
Well, the fun thing about this particular night, and unfortunately, a big part of it had to do with Geno Smith going down, but you had all of the assets from the Russell Wilson trade on display. And one of the biggest plays from the game highlighting that, well, two of the biggest plays highlighting it. One of them was Drew Lock connecting with Noah Fant for an almost touchdown.
Lock from the shotgun. Slot to the near side. Takes the snap. Four-man rush by the Giants. Lock is going to scramble. Throws near side. Wide open. Fant first down up the near sideline. Still up the sideline. Still up the sideline. Fant, does he get in? He does. Touchdown. Seahawks. Holy catfish. Noah Fant catches a flare pass in the right flat and breaks not one, not two, but three tackles on the near side. I don't think he stepped out of bounds. No. They're going to look at it. I think there's green between his foot and the white sidelines. If it stands, it's 52 yards for a touchdown. Even if it doesn't stand as a touch, it's still going to be a big first down.
Man, was that highlight at home with the crowd in the background going nuts throughout the catch? I thought for sure he stepped out like around the 7, but it turns out his knee was down at the 1. But yeah, well, a fun play to put the Seahawks in scoring position.
Oh, super cool, man. Let's hit on a couple things. One, I love it when Rabes hits the end of a call and his voice just kind of gives up, and it usually gives up right around he does. Like it's almost like it's just out of voice. He's just out of gas there. I always find that really entertaining. The Wyman chuckles in full effect. We'll get a few of those on the Witherspoon play too. But you hit on something that I heard Rich Eisen talk about, just the idea of how many of the Russell Wilson trade pieces made big plays and how 14 points basically came as a result of the Russell Wilson trade just from this one game alone. Lock the Fant, and then Witherspoon obviously being taken with the number 5 pick that we were gifted from Russell Wilson and the Broncos. Thanks again, guys. That's been awesome. Really enjoying it. Hope your season's going well. I heard maybe not so much.
So you had the 2 pieces on offense, and then you had the 1 piece on defense. And boy, oh boy, did Devon Witherspoon, the 5th overall pick in the 23 draft, have a game against these New York Giants.
Here's Jones going to throw. This time he gets hit on a blitz and knocked down. A corner blitz by Witherspoon. Comes off the blind side. Jones never saw him, and Witherspoon was not going to miss. He hits big number 8 right square in the back and knocks him off his feet. Big loss. Giants right back to the line of scrimmage. Second sack of the game by the Hawks. 3rd down and 11 now, back at their own 48.
just hard to forget that that was only the second sack of the game when you have 11 sacks on the day. And Witherspoon sacked two different guys. He had the one on Daniel Jones and then the one on Paris Campbell, which I didn't even realize in real time that that was a sack, because Jones lateraled the football out to Paris Campbell, and Devon Witherspoon recognized it quickly enough, very aggressively on the play, going after Campbell, who would have had the option then to throw the football. He had the option, but he didn't have the time because Witherspoon was on top of him right away, and that was the second sack for him on the day.
Yeah, I was with you on that one. I didn't realize that counted for a sack at all, putting him ahead of Jalen Carter, which is really fun. We can talk about that some more at some point here, because one of the big things in the national media discussion has been a little John Schneider love, and I think we can go down that road too here in a minute. But Witherspoon on that particular play, man, how can you be sad about a guy who has that sort of awareness, that sort of recognition, that sort of boom, that sort of juice, when he sees a simple, just little flare pass out to the side, a lateral backwards pass, and comes in there and just blows that catfish up? And that's the stuff that got me so stoked when I was watching Witherspoon at Illinois, going back through his tape and stuff. And it's so cool to see it come out. And not only that, but, kind of building up to this game. It was a little bit of a learning curve his first couple games. Now it's his third game. And then the big lights come on in New York City, Monday Night Football. Everybody's watching. And when does he have his biggest game? Then. That's the type of guy you're looking for. You're looking for guys that make big time plays during big time moments. And that's who Devon Witherspoon is. I'm freaking jazzed about this dude, man. Him and Tariq, the next 10 years of this catfish. Good luck, everybody else. Good luck.
And there wasn't a bigger time to have a bigger moment than the Seahawks facing the prospect of giving up yet another red zone touchdown, something that they've done every single time that their opponent has gotten into the red zone this season. We talked about it going into this game. They were 100% at allowing the opposing team to get into the end zone once they got into the red zone. But Devon Witherspoon, he wasn't having it.
So Jones from the shotgun. Breida beside him in the backfield. Single wide out left with a slot to the right side. Seattle looks like they want to rush four. And they do. Jones is going to throw. Throws near side. Ball picked up. Witherspoon comes near side. Down the sidelines. Jones chasing him. He cuts back inside. Picks up blockers. Still being chased. Witherspoon far side. 20, 15, 10, 5. He is in. Holy catfish. Witherspoon went a mile and a half with the interception for a touchdown. Jones looks left. Witherspoon dekes him into throwing and then picks it off and goes from about the 3-yard line, the length of the field. Are you kidding me? 97 yards. Witherspoon, unbelievable.
97 yards, but still not the franchise record for the longest interception return.
That's, guess, a true fact there, but really impressive by the rookie. I know that when it happened in real time, there are a lot of people being like, well, I mean, the receiver just ran the wrong route, or Daniel Jones didn't know where to go with the football and threw it to the wrong spot. And the Witherspoon just happened to be standing where Jones threw it. It didn't give him a lot of credit for the pick, but then listen to Pete talk about it. And what his assignment was on that play was to play on that side of the receiver so that he could fall off and cover the other receiver that was running a very similar route to Witherspoon's right. And so he was basically kind of cutting the distance between the two of them, staying closer to the inside receiver, which was cool. Because even if Jones had thrown it to the inside of that receiver, it looked like Witherspoon had enough position to be able to reach over and knock that down. So a really, really nice play. And it's not his fault Jones threw a catfish ball. Like, that's just what happened there. And then the athleticism to get all the way down the field and all the boys coming along and helping on that, whether it was Tariq or Julian Love, give them a lot of credit to. A big game-changing play. That would have been 14-10.
And part of that was because of the decision early on in the third quarter. They go into halftime up 14-3. You're feeling really good about the Seahawks team. They come out of the half with the ball because they deferred the kickoff. One of the very first, I think maybe the first time that they've had the ball to start the second half. Then they come out and they drive down the field. Gino's back out there after having his knee looked at. and they drive down the field. They get inside the red zone. 4th and 1, they decide to go for it rather than kick the field goal. And by not converting in that moment, it shifted some of that momentum back to the Giants, and a big potential swing right there. If, after missing the opportunity for points there, and then the Giants getting back into position, it had the opportunity of going very differently.
I couldn't be more opposite on 4th downs than I am with Pete. We can't think more differently about it. I don't get it. It just, for all the amazing that Pete Carroll is, the 4th down stuff makes me freaking crazy. But you're right. That big miss by Myers. Now give him a little bit of a pass. I mean, it is a 53-yarder. However, I don't think that thing would have been good from 35.
Maybe you go for it there rather than kicking a 53-yard field goal. Is that where maybe some of your difference was?
No. Well, the first 4th down that they go for and miss.
That was coming out of the half. That was the first drive coming out of the half where they were down to the 15-yard line. And then the Giants get the ball back. They go 3 and out. Seahawks get the ball back around the Giants 40. They, what happened there? Because they,
DJ Dallas, I think, had that big return right there.
That's what it was. It was the Dallas return that put him in position to kick the 53-yard field goal, but the offense didn't go anywhere.
No.
But they had the 53-yard opportunity. I guess you can't punt in that situation. You make your kicker go out there and kick a 53-yarder, but it was just unfortunate that he missed it.
It depends on how he's been hitting them in practice and hitting them, pregame and during warmups in the second half. You have to kind of take those things into account. But yeah, that first time to go for it on 4th there, take the points. They can't score. Go up 14. It's a lock. Yeah, you basically have the game wrapped up at that point. I don't understand going for it for 4th the first time. I don't understand trotting Myers out there for a 53-yarder if he hasn't looked good, but I don't know that. Only Pete knows that. I'll give him a pass there. But then late in the game, they were down near the red zone there, and instead of just kicking the field goal and giving the Giants the ball back with like $1:20 left or something like that, Pete goes for it again. It's like, just kick the field goal, get your offense off the field, and move on with your day like regular people do. I get that he's trying to convert the 4th down there and be able to run out the clock and just win it there on offense. I get all that, but why not give the defense one more shot to go up there and try to break the record in sacks or whatever it is, right? Just play normal football. But again, that's a wish that will never be fulfilled as a Seahawks fan. And I'm okay with that because with non-normal football, we usually come out with dubs, and I like dubs.
Yeah. And the Seahawks got the dub 24-3. We didn't get to see a lot of Jamal Adams, unfortunately, in this game because he was only out for 9 snaps before he took a knee to the head, concussed, trying to make a tackle on Daniel Jones. And I know there's people out there giving him a hard time saying, well, that's what you get for diving at a guy's knees rather than tackling him up high. Watch any of the defensive backs throughout that game. Witherspoon dove at guys' legs. Mike Jackson dove at dude's legs. Name a defensive back.
All
That's
the
what they do when they're tackling larger players. They dive at the guy's legs. So you can't just go after Jamal and have it be, that one fluky play where he gets kneed in the head. It's a bummer, but if you're just watching that play, okay, yeah, but go watch all the other plays where DBs are diving at guys' legs.
I didn't realize that was a narrative that was out there trying to fault a guy for getting kneed in the head. Like, just stop it. I mean, it's football. Things happen fast. He went in there and was trying to lay the wood to the quarterback, get a guy who is big and strong down on the ground. And, you get low man wins. That's what they teach you forever in football. Now, they also try to teach you to keep your head up. Either way, bad stuff happens sometimes. It happened to Jamal, which was a real bummer because you could see the juice right out of the gate, man. You could see him with that big hit.
Well, he hit Paris Campbell up high. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he didn't dive for his legs, right? Little Paris Campbell. So I'm definitely sad for Jamal. But again, out of all the things that could have happened in a lot of ways, it's about as good of an injury that you could have got. He got his feet wet. He'll have another couple of weeks here to heal up. It's going to be okay.
One question that I would want an honest answer out of either Pete Carroll or Clint Hurt is to ask if the game plan for Witherspoon in this game was what we saw, or if that was a shift for what they had planned for Jamal before he got injured. Because one of the things that we saw going back and watching this game was that those 9 snaps that Jamal was out there, Devon Witherspoon was lined up on the outside. He wasn't lined up at nickel or anywhere else on the field. He was lined up outside at the cornerback spot. And then when Jamal got hurt, he moved inside to the nickel spot, and it was Michael Jackson that came in. Devon Witherspoon played 100% of the snaps, but it was when he was in at nickel, or in nickel situations, where he was moved inside, and it was Mike Jackson outside.
Interesting. I didn't notice that that's where Devon was at the beginning of the game, playing the left corner there rather than in the slot. And no, you're never going to get an answer to that, no matter how much truth serum that you have there. But I do think that Pete Carroll is looking at it and being like, dang, man, hard to keep him out of that spot when he's that effective. They may rethink that through the bye week.
Because what do you do when you have 2 guys that you want to be the F the play up guy, and you have Jamal and you've got Devon? You know, do you move Jamal back to the love position? How do you maneuver that? How do you manipulate the defense? It could make for some interesting dynamics for the team. And it's a good problem to have. And it's one of the things that I feel like we talked about in the offseason as how would they divvy up some of these responsibilities. I think we're just starting to get a taste of it here in this Giants game.
Oh, for sure. And if we know one thing for sure is that Pete Carroll and Clint Hurt, they will do it really well. However it is that they need to get this done. So we will see here after the bye week, but let's give the defense all the credit in the world in this game. This was a defensive performance that we've been hungry for as 12s for a long time. And one of the things that stood out to me, Brandon, was just how aggressive Clint Hurt was throughout his play calling this game.
Right. You had Bobby Wagner playing near the line of scrimmage a lot. You had him going after Daniel Jones. Wagner able to get 2 sacks. Gosh, you had Nwosu getting after the quarterback. And all of it was because they were being so aggressive, not dropping out into coverage and allowing guys to get open. Yeah, they had a plan to go after Jones. And it seemed like the entire night it was swarming to the quarterback, swarming to the guys for those short throws. And yeah, okay, if you get beat deep, you get beat deep. But this is the type of thing that I feel like we've talked about, like how we want to see this defense play teams. And here they actually did. I hope they don't go back to being more conservative against other teams.
The only thing that has me worried about that is that they saw blood in the water with the offensive line with all of the injuries for the Giants and thought, well, heck, this is the game that you go after. And again, this is opposite thinking in my mind. Like this would be the game that you'd rush for much more often than you normally did, because they're probably going to get home because the offensive line stinks and keep all the guys in coverage. And instead of like blitzing a bunch now against that offensive line, whereas they seem to go up against better offensive lines. And then they're like, well, we'll just rush 4 and we'll play hyper conservative and try not to get beat. And it's like, no, against the good teams is when you got to crank it up, not against the bad teams. But I actually sat down, Brandon, last night. I watched all 22.
Yeah.
And I charted plays. And don't have me do this as a profession. I'm not good at it. I'm easily distracted. So I did count that on at least 16 dropbacks for Daniel Jones, they brought 5 or more dudes. And that's a lot more than we normally see. And watching KJ on his pod talking about the different types of blitzes, and you could see it, man, like from the corner, from the edge, dropping the edge defender out and rotating guys in on the pass rush and different stunts and just stuff all over the place. Bobby, Jordan Brooks in there. Draymond had a good game, man. He had his pressures and looked like the guy that we were hoping he'd look like. Clint Hurt was aggressive, creative. And I did hear Pete say on his coaching show that, well, this is all the stuff we've always had in the bag. We finally got to use it. It was like, okay, I don't know what the holdup was, but more, please.
Well, you were a little bit off with your charting. If you're going by PFF numbers, they had the Seahawks blitzing 21 times to your 16 out of 50 plays.
Well, they may have been counting the blitzes for the run plays. That's just Daniel's dropbacks.
Okay. No, this was out of 50 dropbacks. So.
Oh, then I'm dang close then, and they might be wrong because
that's fine.
Yeah, 49 is what I had for Daniel Jones total dropbacks. And then I was like, wait, but he only had 34 attempts. I was like, oh yeah, but he got sacked 11 times. So you subtract that from the, to get to the correct number of attempts and all that. So
yeah,
it was at least 16. But there was times when Brittany was talking to me, I'd miss a play. Who knows? I mean, I still think I'm better than PFF. So whatever.
Well, and there were some delayed blitzes in there too, because Bobby wasn't necessarily blitzing immediately off the ball in some of those situations. He was hanging back, and then after it developed a little bit, he was coming up the middle, and I think that's how he ended up getting his couple of sacks. But the pressure that they were able to put on him, they got it from all over the defensive line. I think the only guy, it was crazy, and we talked about this on 3 in 3 out a little bit. First, let me go through all the guys who did have pressures on the defensive line, because it was significant. You had Derek Hall with 5 pressures, Devon Witherspoon with 4, Boye Mafe with 4, Draymond Jones had 4, Jaron Reed had 4. So just for those guys to have 4 or more, and one of them being your slot corner, Uchenna Nwosu had 3, Wagner had 3, Jordan Brooks had 2, Miles Adams had 2, Mario Edwards had 2, and then the guys with 1, Jamal Adams, who pass rushed on 5 snaps, Cam Young, who's your nose tackle, who was out there for 14 pass plays, and the other guy, Darrell Taylor, only had 1.
Yeah, not a good look for Darrell Taylor there, but when the defense is feasting like that, like, that's okay by my book. Like, I don't count on Darrell Taylor.
One guy's not going to get his, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I just don't count on Darrell Taylor that way anymore. Like, that's just, I've seen enough to know that he's very inconsistent at best. And I'm much more interested in seeing Boye Mafe out there with Nwosu, or Derek Hall out there with Nwosu, or however it is that they want to do it. But just give Clint Hurt all the credit. And this is the defense I want to see going forward, no doubt about it. Now, is it just a result of a bad Giants team, or is this a legitimate performance that you give like an A to? How do you feel about that?
And I think it tends to be a bad Giants team, but I also think that I like the fact that they performed this way against a bad team. This is how I want to see our team perform against bad teams. I know there's some hyperbole out there about what the Seahawks can do. I'm still waiting to see. I was trying to ask myself, is there one thing I know for sure about this Seahawks team in terms of how they operate either on offense or defense? I know that Kenneth Walker is going to have some great games where he has some big breakout runs. I know that Charbonnet is going to try and lay guys out. One of the things I know now about DK is that he's able to make some amazing catches, whether it's one over the middle for a first down or whether it's in the end zone from Geno Smith.
Geno out of the shotgun as Walker beside him, just to his left, awaiting the snap. Geno takes it, steps up in the pocket, scrambles away to his right side, looking to the end zone, fires a dart in the back of the end zone. DK, does he have his feet? And he does. Touchdown, Seahawks! DK Metcalf with the rope-a-dope in the back of the end zone, hands down by his sides. Geno fires a bullet, and Metcalf reacts, makes the catch, feet in, 6-point Seahawks.
And the point that I was making is that I know each of the individual players, but I don't know if I have any statements that I can lay down about either the offense or the defense philosophically.
I think for the offense, that you could say that their bread is buttered with the passing game, and Geno is excellent to all levels of the field. And the receivers and the tight ends as a group are explosive and are difficult to be stopped game in and game out. Now, I understand the offense didn't have a great game this game, and I understand that Geno didn't have many passing yards. I also understand that Geno got hurt and didn't play for the entire game.
Right.
And I also understand that they've had an entire offensive line with dudes playing out of position, or at least a backup. So I can't sit there and I don't know, lament the performance of the offense. I think under the situation and the circumstances, I think they did just fine. It did what they needed to do to help the defense actually dominate and put this game away.
They've done great being in the situation that they are. I just don't know if I can count on the offensive line being healthy for the entire year, even after the bye week. And what is it going to look like? Are we going to be looking at a patchwork offensive line that they're trying to deal with for the entire year? It makes me nervous having Lucas out and Cross out still, even though we've had relatively good performances. It's these types of things, though, that I don't know. The Geno thing, I suppose, is kind of fluky because it's a dude taking him down out of bounds. Isaiah Simmons was the guy who took Geno out initially, which I was very confused when we did the post-game show, because it was Isaiah Simmons that tackled him out of bounds, but then it was Xavier McKinney, 29, that Geno was pointing at after the play. So I don't know if he just saw the 9 on the back of the dude's jersey and thought it was the same guy. But yeah, it was Geno getting flagged for pointing at the sidelines, and I guess some of the coaches were talking junk to Geno. I'm not quite sure, and I don't think we'll get a good picture of exactly what happened that was going on between these two teams. It just seemed like the Giants were more interested in fighting than playing football.
They realized early that they weren't going to win the game, so they were going to win the fight. And, we've heard that since the 80s in terms of players' mentality and that sort of thing. Let's work backwards through some of the stuff that you talked about there. Geno's chili was running hot after that. Man, he didn't let that go for quarters, even after a halftime. Yeah, he came out fired up, and it was hilarious to hear Pete talk about it. He's like, yeah, I pretty much failed him completely in that one. Like, I just couldn't get him off of it. And, give Pete some credit for admitting a shortcoming there. And then let's go back to the offensive line talk. And you said, well, you're worried about whether or not you can count on him for the entire season being healthy. And it's like, well, I don't know. You could say that about any position group and any group of guys, but I do think you can say with some certainty that they're not going to be playing 5 dudes that are either a backup or out of position week in, week out for the remainder of the season. Sure, you may end up having to put in Bradford for frickin' Phil Haynes, or you're rotating somebody in for Evan Brown, or Olu in for Evan Brown for a snap or two or whatever, or a game or two. Sure, that's all going to happen. But at this point, with the way the backups have played, you should feel pretty confident that if you only have 1 or 2 of them out there with the rest of the starters, at the very least, you're in good hands.
The Giants had 17 pressures against the offensive line. Azeez Ojulari having the most of them. Kayvon Thibodeau had 4. Also had the 2 sacks on Geno. Dexter Lawrence and Bobby Okereke also combined for about 6. So those are some good names on the defensive line. I just know that within the division, there's some other names that I'm a lot more worried about. And yeah, I know I covered a lot of ground there, so we might have to circle around these 2 or 3 different topics for a little bit. But yeah, Geno was hot, and Geno was also running for his life in some situations. And I mean, it is kind of to be expected considering the number of injuries that they had on this game. Although you wouldn't know by the broadcast that the Seahawks were having issues with injuries because they were talking about just how injured the Giants offensive line was.
Oh, absolutely. Let's be sure to give the sob story to the big market team. No doubt about it. I mean, Troy and Buck were all over that crap, but that's fine, I guess. That's just how it works. And I think we're all used to it at this point. But you mentioned, well, you play these other divisional teams that we're going to play, and they've got good dudes too, if not better. Well, yeah. And we're going to have more of our good dudes out there who are better than the ones that were out there this last week. This isn't the group of guys that you saw in the second half that are going to be starting the majority of games for the rest of the season. It's just not going to happen. It's nearly impossible.
So yeah, you had Geno and Isaiah Simmons getting into it, Geno and Xavier McKinney, and then it was after Adoree Jackson threw down Tyler a little harder than he needed to out of bounds. Again, guys running out of bounds, and Pete made this comment in his postgame, especially with Isaiah Simmons landing on top of Geno. The dude's running out of bounds. Like, you don't need to do that hip drop tackle on a guy who's running out of bounds. Like, it's different, I suppose, if he's inbounds, even though that's a tackle that most teams want to take out of the game, and one that Pete Carroll coaches the players to not do. They were playing very, I don't know if I go as far to say dirty, but they were really aggressive about tackling guys out of toward the boundaries.
It was to the edge. And then let us not forget the punt that rolled down towards about the 10 or 15. And there's 5 Giants players standing around it. DJ's like standing there, and some dude comes and just lays his ass out, like enough to like knock him off his feet. He does a backwards somersault on the ground. And you hear Troy say one of the most intelligent things he said all night. He's like, that's the very definition of unnecessary, which a catfish was.
Right.
And the ref was sitting there standing right at it. And he doesn't throw the flag. The only thing I could figure was it was still a live play.
Yeah.
And they just were like, well, I mean, it's fair game, but still, like, just don't. There's no reason for that.
You make a good point with the unnecessary part, because in all of these situations, it was roughness that was beyond necessary, which would necessitate a flag in these situations. I thought, at least with the DJ Dallas one, that they would get him on a blind side, because DJ wasn't looking for that block. And usually that's when they call those blind side block situations, when you're blocking a guy who's not expecting it.
And not only that, he blocked him in the side, right? Which they call blocks in the back all the time when it comes to punt and kick returns. If you hit him in the side or the back, they call you for the block in the back. And he kind of hit him in the side.
Yeah, he got him in the shoulder. It was a live ball. I mean, I understood that maybe within the rule you could account for it, but why? Why are you doing it?
I don't know. And I have no idea where this aggression came from the Giants in terms of the seemingly hatred that was there for the Seahawks. I don't get it. Maybe they were just that frustrated with the fact that their front office paid Daniel Jones $40 million a year for whatever that was out there. And it's not all his fault, don't get me wrong. But Geno was out there with a similar situation, and he outperformed Daniel Jones, even with getting injured throughout the game.
Maybe the fact that we continue to call it Lumen Field East, maybe that's weighing on the players' shoulders, and so they're taking it out on our players. But hey, come after us,
or don't, please.
Or don't.
I mean, you guys are all monsters and not human, so I would.
I just don't
like
want to
stay
take
away
it out
from
on
that.
our guys. Yeah,
yeah. Well, fine, take it out on me. Come find me. I dare you. Good luck.
It's kind of part of my point.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want to start any fights, because clearly they will start fights, finish fights. But hey, Seahawks got the win and did it in a pretty entertaining fashion on Monday Night Football. And people are wising up to the fact that maybe they shouldn't show Giants football on primetime anymore, but we got 2 more games coming up this year.
They will never wise up to that fact. That team is overhyped, overshowed year in, year out. Even their last Super Bowl was like, where did that come from? Like, it just was a crazy hot streak, and they ended up winning a chip. I mean, this is not a franchise that has put together a bunch of very competitive winning seasons for a very long time. They'll have an occasional up year, and then it's just a bunch of down ones. I just don't get it. And I'm told every year, and Clinton's as bad as the rest of them, being an East Coaster. Oh, no, the Giants are actually good. No, they actually have all these dudes. No, I actually know Giants fans. Like, they're actually good. Like, I like Giants fans, but like, the team's actually good. Dude, they're not good. It's just wake me when you have good tape to show me, because I haven't seen it for years.
And that's part of why I'm okay with some of the narrative, is that we expose the Giants as being bad. And that's been the talking point coming out of this game. It's like, oh, the Giants are a bad football team. And so the fact that we could show that was encouraging, I guess. That's at least what I took out of listening to some of the national discussion.
And the fact that when they did finally get around to talking about the Seahawks, it was, a lot of recognition about just where this team is, where it's going, and the complete turnaround that Pete Carroll has done with the roster in conjunction with John Schneider to get to this point, with the Russ trade being obviously the crux of it. It's fun to watch, man. It's fun to be a team that is the opposite of the Giants in the fact that year in, year out, you're pretty good and competitive, and you make the playoffs.
And John Schneider's efforts were on display, not just in terms of the personnel. I mean, the decision to hire Shane Waldron and Andy Dickerson, I mean, that played out in this game in terms of how they were able to perform with so many injuries on the offensive line. You brought up earlier the Russell Wilson trade and how you had Drew Lock and Noah Fant and then Devon Witherspoon, the 5th overall pick, being the highlight and getting Defensive Player of the Week honors out of it. And so, yeah, some validation, not just for John Schneider, but then also for Pete Carroll. I heard, with the fact that Dable was the one who won Coach of the Year last year. I heard some discussion, I think it was on the Dan Patrick show, where they were saying, maybe there should have been more consideration for Pete Carroll last year and his performance with the Seahawks.
Yeah, maybe, just maybe, when all of you thought that they wouldn't even win 3 games and they go to the playoffs. Like, come on, man. But I don't know what check needs to be written, the size of it, the amount that Jody Allen's going to need to put down on a check for Andy Dickerson, but just do it now. Just do it now. Right. Pay the man all the money. I want that dude as my offensive line coach for as long as humanly possible. It is such a breath of fresh air to have somebody that can put together a competent group week in, week out, backup starters, doesn't freaking matter. Just think back to the Tom Cable years, guys. I mean, I know the PTSD helps block it out, but if you can go back and remember that, the difference with Andy Dickerson here is just, I mean, it's night and day. If there's, I think they do interviews during the bye week, right? Like, I just want to hammer Andy Dickerson and try to get him on the show, man. That would be one of the more interesting conversations that I could possibly have. I want to know the secret sauce here. I do.
And there was one thing that I wanted to talk about with regard to this game and the offensive line. I know people are excited that Drew Lock came into the game, led the touchdown drive, and it was really cool to get points on the board with the backup quarterback. But this drive that he put on, his performance during that drive illustrated the difference between Drew Lock and Geno Smith. Drew Lock, on multiple occasions on that drive, was immediately bailing out of the pocket. And it's tough to blame him when it is a bunch of backups and you got a lot of dudes on that Giants defensive line that you have to worry about. Like, I understand that. Consider the difference. Like, just go back and watch that one drive by Drew, watch the drives by Geno and the ways that he hangs in the pocket and moves up into it. That's what I'm talking about. The way that the two manipulate the pocket and hang in there, it is a stark difference just in this one game when you focus on that aspect of quarterbacking.
Interesting that you call it bailing. See, I saw it a little different. That looked a lot to me as Waldron moving the pocket, because it wasn't that he was just, you said he was quick to bail the pocket. Well, quick would be an understatement.
There were some that were designed and there were others where I thought he bailed.
Okay. There's a couple that he did move out of the pocket on his own, but Waldron was definitely moving the pocket out to Drew Lock's right on many of those plays. And give Waldron credit. He did it for a few different reasons. One, obviously the offensive line is dinged up and struggling a little bit. Two, you have your backup quarterback in there who took not nearly as many snaps as a starter throughout the week. He can only be so prepared, even if he's locked in and doing everything he's supposed to, like Pete says he does, right? So then you play to that quarterback strength, which is he's a little bit more mobile than Geno and throws well on the run, especially moving to his right. And then why not take the field for your backup quarterback and cut the reads down to half a field and make it nice and easy for him? Like, I thought that was smart thinking by Waldron. I don't know that it was just all Drew Bailey is the way that I saw it. Now, I could be totally wrong.
No, I think you make some good points, because it does have a lot to do with the offensive coordinator. It could have to do with the trust that he has. It could have to do with, it's his first time out there being in first team action, up against a first team defense anyway, and then trying to work him into it. So yeah, maybe if he were to play more than one series, you'd start to see, okay, well, we start out this one season by doing this just to get him comfortable and kind of in a rhythm. And then we come out and we kind of trust him. We call some more plays from where he's having to work the pocket a little bit more. So yeah, maybe a little bit too harsh from me, but I just,
the rarity.
I want to give Geno more props is I guess what I was trying to do.
You could see that Geno is more comfortable in this offense right now. And that's probably a lot about who gets as many snaps as they do during practice and all that. But, I like both quarterbacks. It was that moment that Pete came over and talked to Drew and let him know he's going in and kind of their interaction. That was really fun. Now knowing that Geno isn't lost for the year or something like that, that moment was very fun. I enjoyed that very much. And just seeing how excited Drew was, he has earned the opportunity.
I was happy for Drew to do as well as he did. And I guess in my mind, I'm just trying to justify the difference between the two. And I'm rooting for Drew when he's out there. I just feel like Geno's my guy. And maybe I was being a little bit too hard on Drew a minute ago. I apologize for that. And yes, I agree with you, though, that it was fun seeing Pete rile him up as he was about to go in there and, just pumping him up. And that's, again, what a good coach does.
It's what a good coach does. And Geno should be your dude.
Or if you're a coach, you can just throw your tablet at your starting quarterback. That's another way to operate too. But, who am I to judge which way is better or worse?
I find it really interesting how much crap that Dable's getting over doing that. And I don't understand it. Like, what? He's not supposed to get mad at his players when they screw up? Like, he's just supposed to stand there and not do anything? Or is he supposed to go over and just like grumble under his voice like Belichick does or something? Like, I've seen so many coaches get hot at dudes. Like, there's a lot of different ways to go about things in this world, and take your pick. Like, who would be the most stoic coach that you could think of? I don't know. George Seifert. Like, he never showed any emotion. Like, or I can't think of any off the top of my head. Maybe you could, but
Mike Tomlin's kind of that stoic sideline coach, isn't he?
Sure. I kind of like my guys to be a little more like a Holmgren maybe, or a Pete Carroll, that when he gets pissed, he got pissed. Like, he didn't just stand there the whole time, like, I don't know. I just find it interesting that as a head coach, you can't try to light a fire underneath your quarterback who doesn't seem to have any fire. And that was, out of all the things from that interaction, the thing that I thought was the most interesting is he chucks the tablet at him, and Daniel Jones doesn't look up, doesn't say a word, doesn't do anything. I guarantee you do that to, I don't know, Tom Brady, he probably tries to take your head back off with that tablet. Like, that just, it shows a lack of competition or care in some ways. And that maybe that's not true. Maybe that's not how he felt. Maybe he was just down in the dumps. I don't know.
I don't have any problem with him trying to motivate his players in different ways. I just thought it was a fun contrast during the game between Pete Carroll, Drew Lock, and then Dable and his starting quarterback. It just, those two contrasts were on two very different sides.
It's a lot easier when it's going well.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Well, I think we're doing pretty well as far as recapping this game. We don't have anything to look ahead to other than the bye week, and thank goodness it's the bye week.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm excited for this team to get healthy. And any predictions for the bye week, Brandon? Wins or losses here?
Well, Seahawks definitely going double-digit wins in the bye week, I think, because you got to think about all the dudes that they're potentially getting back from injury. Like Jamal Adams, he's got to be recovered from his concussion with the extra week, I would hope. Charles Cross sounds like he's potentially close. Who else are we looking to really get? It seems like with Phil Haynes, it's kind of a nagging issue. Damian Lewis, I don't know if it sounded like it was anything too serious.
Yeah, didn't quite get a beat on the Dame Lou injury, but you said double-digit win, and maybe that's just because they get double-digit guys back from injury here. That would be pretty sweet. And, one thing I took away from Pete when I listened to the coach show here with Brock and Salk, the Pete Carroll show, he said something about towards the end of the interview. He's like, look, man, I tell you all the time, we're just getting going. You hear him say that a lot, right? We're just getting going. We're just getting going. And then he says it like he did in that coaching show. Like, he believes in this group of dudes. He really loves this team. He went out of his way to say that he loves this particular group of guys and the way they compete and the way that they're getting better throughout second halves of games and all sorts of little things that he pointed out. Pete Carroll is freaking fired up about this group of guys. And with this bye week coming up and everybody that they get back, I haven't seen him this giddy in a minute.
He should be, especially after a game and a performance like this, where you start to see things come together, when you start to see Devon Witherspoon getting into that role that you expected him to be when you drafted him. And when you're faced with these tough decisions of, who do we play? Who do we give majority of snaps to when you have so much talent? Trey Brown is another guy who I didn't mention, who's potentially coming back, who could be taking snaps away from Michael Jackson, and other things that are going to help out this defense. And also on offense with all the issues that you're facing on the offensive line, because we haven't seen this team put everything together within one game. We've seen the offense put up back-to-back 37-point performances. This defensive performance was the best performance we've seen by the defense this year. We saw one kind of decent half of football. I think that first half against the Rams, where maybe both sides of the ball were kind of working together, but the defense, I don't think it obviously wasn't where it is now in that game against the Rams. So you're starting to see the pieces, and you're looking forward to when it can all come together.
Heck yeah, man. I can't be sad about the first quarter of the season and what we've seen. 3-1 heading into the bye. It feels good, man.
Let's get to the second half of the show. Looking around the NFC West in week 4, we had the San Francisco 49ers with a 35-16 win over the Arizona Cardinals, which I suppose was to be expected. And we had an interesting game between the Colts and Rams. It took the Rams overtime to get the win over the Colts 29-23.
Yeah, that was frustrating. I was really hoping for the Colts there, and they couldn't get it done. But then again, you're hearing about Matt Stafford already having health issues and starting to fall apart. And he's like, no, I'm definitely playing week 5. When guys are starting to talk like that already, when they have an injury history and haven't been able to get through a season for a couple now, this would be the second one. He did have that random fluky healthy year that they ended up winning the Super Bowl, but it's coming right now. And as far as the Niners and Cards, I've been watching a bunch of Cards here lately. That's not the team that I was told they were going to be. They play better than advertised, and they play hard. And this Gannon guy might actually be a real coach. They don't look anything like a Kingsbury team.
No,
at all. I'm actually moderately impressed. And then I don't know about you, Brandon, but this is nothing against, like, I don't wish for this or anything because, I don't wish for injuries, but can we just admit that it's super annoying that Christian McCaffrey goes to the Niners and then is completely healthy the whole time that he's there? Like, and he's getting used like crazy.
We're like, okay, well, yeah, the Niners are getting a great player in Christian McCaffrey, but when are they going to have him and for how long? And it turns out that he just doesn't have any health problems now that he's with the 49ers on a team that has dealt with health problems like historically. Yeah, you don't wish a guy to be injured, but you're shocked when it doesn't go as you expected.
I mean, as good as Purdy has been in terms of playing his role and doing what he should be doing, especially in that offense, McCaffrey's the guy. Like, he's the straw that stirs the drink for that team completely, even more so than Debo. And they haven't been using Kittle as much this year. There's rumors he's not healthy, whatever that is. But yeah, man, as long as Christian McCaffrey is healthy and playing this way, they're going to be a tough out.
Well, just having guys like Kittle and Debo out there and McCaffrey to where it opens up Ayuk to be a guy like that's the fourth guy that you're really worried that you have to worry about. And because you're focused on the top 3, it allows a guy like him to go off and shine when some of those other guys aren't.
And defensively, they've been playing up to snuff as to what you would expect. The Hargrave edition looks exactly like the Hargrave edition I thought it would be. Like, it looks just like it looks.
Yeah. I think you and I are on the same page. We're annoyed about how good the 49ers are.
Early.
Right.
They're good early. We shall see. It's the same thing with the Dolphins. Everybody, man, I had, who was the coach for the Cards? Dennis, if you want to crown him. Oh,
Green. Denny Green.
Shoot. Denny Green. There it is. Denny Green. Like, up until this last week for the Dolphins, you want to crown him? Like everybody, like they hung the 70 points on the Broncos and they're the greatest team ever. And then the Bills shellacked them. That was fun. So I do think that it's early in the season. Let's see how things progress. It's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows in Santa Clara. It's just not. That's just not the way the world works. And screw these guys.
I had to tell myself that same thing, to have that discussion and say, okay, here, because I was listening to the national media and they're like, yeah, well, the Seahawks, they're looking pretty good this year. But, the San Francisco 49ers and the Eagles, I mean, you're not going to be able to get by those teams. So they were already putting the Seahawks in the wild card spot through 4 weeks of the season, even though there's one game difference and these two teams haven't faced off against each other yet.
I've heard a number of different pundits being like, wait a second, maybe we should be thinking about the Hawks here in terms of them competing with the Niners and being able to take this division. And yeah, I mean, at this point, it does feel a little like a coin flip. I think these are two very good teams and the games are going to be tough, hard fought, and we'll see what happens throughout the season. Everybody's been highlighting the stretch of games. What is it? It's like Niners, Cowboys,
Niners
Eagles, Cowboys,
again.
Niners. Yeah, whatever it is. They're week 12 starting on Thanksgiving. And yeah, I mean, they're not wrong. We're going to know a lot after that.
I'm interested in even the game before that Niners game, because the stretch is Rams, Niners, Cowboys, Niners, Eagles.
There it is.
That 5-game stretch. It's going to tell a lot about, can they bounce back against the Rams, for instance?
Right now, that's the way it looks. But then again, schedule release comes out, right? And we go through all these games. And how many people are like, ooh, the Seahawks strength of schedule. They've got the Giants week 4. They were a playoff team last year. And then you saw what the Giants were. That's how it's going to be, potentially coming up during that brutal stretch. Like, we don't know who's going to be injured or not and how the teams are going to be playing and all the circumstances. Things can change by then.
Well, one of the teams facing injuries is the team that the Seahawks have coming out of the bye week with the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow hasn't looked great. On the opposite side of the token, the Cleveland Browns and that defense, yeah, they didn't look great with Dorian Thompson-Robinson out there, but with that defense, they just have to have a competent quarterback that can lead a couple drives.
Yeah, I mean, too bad they don't have one that's either competent or a good person. Like, they both are quarterbacks.
By week 8, you don't know.
I do know that Deshaun Watson won't magically become a good person by week 8. I know that much. I'll believe it when I see it with the Browns, whatever. I don't care about that. But the Bengals, man, I'm really curious to watch them this week. I've watched a couple of their previous games, and I do think that their offense isn't just a Joe Burrow calf injury away from getting it figured out. They have big problems all over that team right now. The offensive line hasn't played great. Joe Mixon in the running game hasn't been consistent. T. Higgins has been a disaster a couple games, a legit unmitigated disaster. Against the Rams, he dropped like 5 balls and had a bunch of mistakes. I don't know, man. There's something super broken with that Bengals offense right now. And I don't know if it has to do maybe with the fact that Joey got paid and, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are still like, okay, then where's my bag?
I suppose it could have something to do with that. I tend to think it has to do more with the injury to Burrow, but I'll be watching more Bengals football than I have all season this weekend coming up because they're facing a division rival in the Arizona Cardinals, and they have to go play in Arizona, which good luck to them going to Arizona before the week that they have to play Seattle.
Yeah. Hopefully everybody stays healthy, like rooting for that, but that's still no gimme. I'm telling you, the Cards have played feisty all year.
Yeah.
And I don't, that's just not one that you look at and are like, there's an automatic win. It's just, that's not how they are. Dobbs has been okay. Connor just looked pretty good. Their defense plays hard. That Gannon might be okay, which I hate saying.
They'll probably give him coach of the year.
He's awfully west of the Mississippi.
Yeah, that's true. Who was the last West Coast coach to win coach of the year?
Harbaugh?
Probably.
Yeah, and only because he's in one of the media darling West Coast markets.
Every team except for the Seahawks, since Pete Carroll has come into the NFC West, they have a coach who has won Coach of the Year.
I wonder who's won the most games out of those coaches.
Well, considering that none of those guys coach in the NFL anymore, except for McVay, other than the head-to-head record has got him.
Yeah, the head-to-head record hasn't been good.
Dang it.
All right. Can we be done talking about those guys?
Yes. Let us talk about our members of the flock at getintheflock.com, starting with our executive producers, DCH, Rebecca Christensen, Brian Shaw, and JC Schilling.
It's like, the Three Musketeers, only there's four. There are four Musketeers, which makes them better Musketeers.
Yeah, you know what? I like the Three Musketeers for our four executive producers. That's a cool name.
Exactly. The 3-4 Musketeers. There you go. That now it's a football vibe.
There you go. We've got Chris Green coming in at $5 via getintheflock.com. Welcome to the flock to Chris.
Hey, appreciate it, Chris, man. We're riding this wave with you guys. It was a fun week.
We've also got Martin Skovmos coming in at $12.12. Welcome to the flock to Martin.
Hey, what up, Martin? Look forward to seeing you in the Ring of Honor and Discord and all that good stuff.
Steven coming in via Zelle with the 2403 score donation. Thanks to Steven.
Hey, man. Love that. Love the score donations. Those are very generous. Thanks a bunch, dude. Very much appreciated.
And don't forget to stop on by Guaranteed Barbecue, his food trailer in Kellogg, Idaho. Mention the Little Flockers discount. Garen's going to give you 12% off your entire order. Adam, I forgot to ask you, did you stop by and get yourself some barbecue on the way back from Seattle after the Carolina game?
I did not, because at Spokane, at Coeur d'Alene, rather, I diverted north and went back up your direction so that I could help my dad roof one of his rental properties, which my aunt lives in.
So not only did you have to roof a house, you had to avoid getting barbecue.
Yeah, it was like getting kicked in the balls twice, or maybe 3 times. 2-3 kicks in the balls.
I'm surprised that that's not what Evie came up with as some of the punishment for picking against the Seahawks. But, there's always next year. We got an email from Evie saying, "Dear Pick'em League underlings, well done.
Yes.
For the last 2 weeks, you have all obeyed the rules, and the Trey Lance jersey can stay away for a while longer. This does not mean I will stop watching, though. Dad keeps muttering about stupid games. He appears to have made up with the Donkeys, although he's not a fan of the Bengals at the moment. He appears to have a slightly derogatory name for each team, especially when they don't do what he predicts. He still says he's happy, just 6 picks of the lead, but I think he needs to do better. Thank you for letting me continue to be your Pick'em League ruler. Go Hawks," from Evie.
Evie, there's only one way that the last 2 weeks go as well as they have with everybody following the rules. It's with the amazing rule that you have over all of us little flockers in this domain. You are both benevolent and harsh all at the same time. It's perfect. You do great work. Better than your dad with Pick'em.
All hail Evie.
All hail Evie.
Looking at the picks this week with the Seahawks going into the bye week. Adam, you can't forget to give us your picks. So let's start off with Thursday Night Football. The Chicago Bears at the Washington Commanders.
Not Bears.
Okay. The Bears almost had the win. They almost beat the Broncos.
I know. And they couldn't even do that.
They should have. They should have beat the Broncos too.
They wasted a good Justin Fields game, man.
The best Justin Fields game.
Yep.
All right. 95% going with the Commanders at home. I might take my risk pick and throw it on Chicago if there's nothing else that looks good.
All right.
Buffalo at home against Jacksonville. I think I know where you're going.
I really want to believe in the Jags. I've been trying all year, but I've watched a lot of football, man. They make just too many mistakes. It's all Travis Etienne, and then Calvin Ridley hasn't played great in a couple games here. I got to go Bills.
Baltimore going on the road at the Steelers, who have been struggling.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett says he's going to play. I don't know if that's good or bad for the Steelers. I'll have to ask Nephew Riker. We'll see. But I'm going Baltimore.
91% going with Baltimore, 97% with Buffalo. So all the picks in the 90s so far. That does not change with Detroit at home against Carolina.
Yeah. Detroit. I can't buck this. I want to say something that is enlightening or something like that. I'd be like, oh no, you should watch out for a bad Carolina team against a pretty darn good Detroit team. But I can't say that.
Well, we're out of risk pick territory now for the next few games. So a lot more coin flips coming up, starting with Houston at Atlanta.
Oh, Houston.
I think maybe just because Atlanta at home or maybe that rushing team, but Stroud, man, he's having a good start to the season.
Yeah, that Nico Collins is a good connection for CJ Stroud. Who's the running back? Pierce. I like that kid.
Yeah, Pierce is solid.
Yeah, he's real good. And DeMeco Ryans has the defense playing okay. And Texans all day on that game.
A defensive matchup here between the New Orleans Saints on the road at New England.
New Orleans Saints in New England. Ugh. Wow.
Right. This is what makes a coin flip.
What a gross game.
It'll be 7-6.
It will too.
9-6.
I don't see Bill Belichick coming off of the worst loss of his career and following that up with another L. I'm going Patriots.
47% going Patriots. This one is 100%. You don't often see 100% in the pick'em, like, because usually somebody will pick the opposing team. Mm-hmm. Which game do you think? Well, you're probably not looking at the schedule. I don't know the slate,
but I'm guessing it must be like Chiefs Broncos.
Miami Giants.
Yeah.
Indianapolis at home against the Tennessee Titans. Back to coin flip games.
Really? I like the Colts a lot better. Colts.
Cincinnati on the road at Arizona. Not risk pick territory to take the Cardinals, but
come on. No. I wanted it to be because I am. I'm taking Arizona.
Okay, 37% with the Cardinals.
Darn. I was hoping that was going to be the next risk picky one.
No, if you want to take a risk pick and a division rival, you would have to take the Rams over Philly in LA. There are three more risk picks left among the
sweet good because I can't do it. Nope, can't do it. Nope, Philly. Yeah.
Okay. Kansas City at Minnesota.
God. Yeah. The Chiefs have not looked great. And I know they've still gotten some victories there and like toughed it out. But I mean, Pat Mahomes didn't look good last week. Threw a couple picks that were kind of head scratching. But then the Vikings just can't seem to get it together for nothing. But these are those weird games. I'm going Vikings. Is this a risk pick?
It's definitely a risk pick. Only 7% going with Minnesota.
This is my one. I'll take Vikings here.
Okay.
Because they could randomly score a bunch of points and keep up with the Chiefs. Like they can.
Oh yeah, and it's at home, and the Vikings going 0-5 seems kind of weird. No, they beat the Panthers this weekend.
Oh right, okay.
So yeah, they are 1-3.
They're riding high. I'm going. Rando Vikings win.
Rando Vikings win.
Yeah.
All right, the Jets at Denver. This one's fun.
Jets.
All right.
Zach Wilson looked like a competent dude last week. He did.
Yeah. Well, so did Justin Fields. Like we're down to rando 2021 quarterback looking okay games.
I guess. I mean, you're acting like these guys can never put it together again. You're basically giving up on them. Like everybody gave up on Geno Smith, you first round quarterback hater. Well, I guess Geno was a second rounder, but whatever. Like if they underperform early, you're out. It's over.
Yeah. If these guys were second round picks, then I'd hold out hope. But for these first rounders, no mercy.
No mercy, huh?
Dallas Cowboys going on the road at San Francisco.
Dallas Cowboys in San Fran, huh?
And Dallas would be a risk pick.
Are you serious?
12% going with the Cowboys, 88% going with the Niners.
I think I'm taking Dallas here.
Ooh.
Micah Parsons and company, they're a good enough defense to actually take advantage of the 2 to 3 bad balls that Purdy throws every freaking game. That guy is not throwing a pick in however many pass attempts, or maybe ever for all I know. But like, he just throws a couple every game. You're like, ooh, that one was tight. Ooh, that was off somebody's hands. And he's got He's got the largest horseshoe shoved up his ass of anybody I've ever seen come into the league.
So you're telling me that you expect Dak Prescott to lead that Cowboys offense against the 49ers defense and get enough points to get the win? Or is this solely on defensive scores off of Purdy turnovers?
I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. It's going to be one or two big plays that make the difference. And, I mean, why not? Why not? You can screw the Niners. They can't go undefeated forever. And the Dallas is okay. They're a decent team. They're a pretty good team.
What a great game to have on Sunday Night Football there. That'll be fun. All right. Monday night game, Green Bay at Las Vegas. We go from having Dallas and San Francisco on Sunday night to Green Bay at Vegas on Monday night.
Green Bay.
They are favored. 77%. Well, if you listen to Adam's picks in week 4 of the Pick'em League, you did not finish in the top 5. 12 for the win, 15 picks correct, and getting the win, followed up by Can You Digs It, Lock Hawk Es Fantastico, Fantastico, and Waldron's Cauldron.
Hey, guys are all kicking my ass. Those are all good. I'm feeling good about this week, though. I'm riding with the favorites like everybody else. A bunch of 90s picks for me.
Yeah,
90 and above.
You had enough in there that you could mix things up a little bit.
There you go.
We've got Andrew Rasbend up at the top of the leaderboard with 49 picks correct. Blind Squirrel at 48, followed by Can You Digs It and Lock Hawk Es Fantastico. See, I nailed it the second time.
Yeah. Well, Evie's going to have an easy week this week because nobody can pick against the Seahawks. So she can take a week off, too. It's a bye week for her.
Bye week for Evie. Congratulations. Also, speaking of Evie, we've got an email from her pops, Hugh. Hi, Adam and Brandon. As 4 weeks go, not bad. I thought we would be 3-1 going into the bye week. I didn't think the one would be the Lambs, but never mind. After 4 weeks, it's time to reflect. Witherspoon looks like the real deal. A bona fide top 5 pick. Well done, John and Pete. The run defense looks better. I still need a few more weeks for me to call it legit, but it's getting there. Offense is decent, not as fluid as I'd like, but when we play to our strengths, 12 and 13 personnel, we look strong. I like JSN, but at the moment, he feels like a luxury. I think he will be an excellent player, but did we need him? Could we have utilized that pick elsewhere? I have to say, hats off to John and Pete on signing Drew Lock. I know a lot of people raise their eyebrows, but when you look at the caliber of a lot of backups around the league, I think Drew is a top 3 backup and feel if Geno were to go down, then he could seamlessly fit in and keep the momentum going. All in all, the first 4 weeks report card is a B+ for me. Good, but room for development and improvement. Keep up the good work. Go Hawks from you.
I echo all of those sentiments. Like, there's a lot of reasons to be excited. Pete's fired up about this team. This bye week is going to be a lot of fun to ride the wave of positive emotion after a big win and being 3-1. Yeah, be an enjoyable week of football for me. That's for sure.
And I'll say it again. I don't need JSN to be awesome right away. Like, there's time for him to develop. There's other guys in this offense that I want to see get the ball. I guess it's just the living up to that idea of maybe we have some help on third down that maybe has me a little bit down, but there's still time, like I said.
There surely is. And maybe they'll get some of that cleaned up over this next couple weeks.
John Davison writes in, hi, fellas. In need of some muse and sun, the bard has decamped to Portugal, where he is currently composing this to you both, sat on the beach drinking Sagres and enjoying 90-degree heat. I've managed to catch highlights on my iPad, so it's okay. So the question is, would I take 3-1 going into the bye? Too right, I would, but greedy bugger as I am, it could have been 4-0. From what I've seen last night was a bit of a walk in the park, but a win is a win is a win. How about Witherspoon, however? Just think back, people, and did you whine at the 5th pick in the draft? Well, this is what you're going to get for years, and hopefully we're never going to draft that high again soon. I still feel we haven't seen the real team as rookies need to settle in and injuries need to heal, but can't wait to see how we look come week 14 or so. By then, you'll see our strongest team. Till then, let's rest up on the bye, get all injuries sorted, and meld into a unit. Writing this has exhausted me, and Mrs. Davison has said I must rest. So I will have one sip of my liquid and lie down dreaming of playoffs. Obrigado. Thank you in Portuguese. Every day's a school day. Go Hawks. The Bard, John Davison.
I like that John's taking a bye already too, out there in Portugal on the beach and soaking up the sun, man. Yeah, he kind of just echoes a lot of what we've talked about earlier, and because he sees it the same way that we do. It's been a successful first 4 games of this year, and because it hasn't been like the 49ers where it's all been perfect and everybody's been healthy, you have this sense that there's like another gear, another level to reach. And I'm very optimistic about that.
Can't wait as the season goes forward. We're going to enjoy this bye. We're also going to enjoy getting on to some do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better this week is for Bleacher Report and Doric Sam. Originally, this was going to be a little different, but they realized their mistake, I think, between the time that I hit save article and the time that I pulled this back up to talk about this. The title of the article was originally Marshawn Lynch does not have relationship with ex-QB or coach. That was the title of the article. And then you read through the article and you get down to what Marshawn Lynch said on Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp. And he asked him about Pete and Russ's relationship. And this is what Marshawn had said, I wouldn't be the right person to speak on their relationship because I didn't catfish with them. I didn't catfish with Pete. And I mean, Russ was just a quarterback for me. I respect Russell as a player and as a teammate. Anything that I say is going to come off as malice or I'm a hater. I like Russell and I'll put him right there at quarterback and I'll rock with him because I have done that. But as far as anything else, no, you can pick up the phone or call a boy or nothing like that. So originally, the title was that he didn't have a relationship with Russ and or Pete, that somehow he had a problem with Pete, which I think we all know isn't the case. I mean, there's a reason why Marshawn came back a couple years ago. Pete talks about him glowingly. It's not like they've had major issues in the past, short of the Super Bowl run or non-run. It seems like that's all water under the bridge. And so they were trying to put a wedge between Pete and Marshawn, didn't succeed, and then realized their catfish up and went back and changed the title of the article to Marshawn Lynch talks Russell Wilson's Seahawks tenure. Russ was just a QB for me. Then he takes the shade away from the supposed shade that he threw at Pete Carroll. So you guys over there at Bleacher Report and Doric Sam, do your headlines right the first freaking time and don't change my do better around on me in the middle of do bettering. Do better.
They screwed up your do better.
Yeah.
By doing better, which deserves a do better because, yes, you have an editorial process in place to where you don't screw things up. That's a good call. Yeah, that was an interesting interview with him and Shannon because he did go and say that, he didn't really talk to Russ that much. And he explained a scenario where he called Russ after a game. It was some game where Marshawn didn't have the greatest game, and he was just trying to explain to Russ that he wants Russ to have his back in the same way that he'll have Russ's back if he doesn't perform up to whatever level that he thinks he should be. It was just he was trying to have that kind of conversation. He made it sound like Russ was either taking it the wrong way or not really seeing it from his perspective in a way. I don't know. It got into a conversation about Russ being different, but it was funny how he was going to one of the other quarterbacks. I think maybe even the third string quarterback or practice squad quarterback at the time, because he said Josh. That name sounds familiar, but I'm trying to think of who it was. Anyway, go watch the interview. I'm sure you've probably seen it already because we all love Marshawn interviews. And the fact that there wasn't a better relationship there, it's a bummer, but
I guess there's how many relationships do you have in your line of work, Brandon, where maybe you're not buddies, but it's totally professional and fine.
Oh, sure.
I mean, there's tons. Like, that's just the way the business works.
We want to picture these guys all being buddies and partying together when it's not game day.
Okay. Yeah. And some do and some don't. That's all good. But I see what you're saying. I get the sentiment.
My do better this week is for anyone over the age of 12 critiquing the Toy Story broadcast. I know that this past weekend, ESPN Plus, they were putting on this alternate broadcast of the London game. It was the Jacksonville Falcons game. And I was kind of curious to hear about how it went because, the game was on super early being a London game. I didn't even watch the regular broadcast, let alone the alternate broadcast. So anyway, I'm just trying to learn about how this experiment went with this Toy Story game because they were animating based on the actual NFL game that was being played. They didn't have them with the motion capture things. So I have to imagine that it's pretty difficult technologically to do. And there were all these criticisms. One of them, this is how the criticisms would go. Well, I know this is for kids, but the announcers were having to explain things way too simply. Look, I know this is new technology, but they couldn't even show the ball bouncing on the field after it landed. This is the first time they've done it. It's football. It's for kids. If you're doing a critique on this, then I expect to hear these issues from kids who are, marketed toward this. And instead I heard adults saying, well, I know this was for kids, but this is how bad it was. Yeah. Okay. It wasn't for you. It was for the kids. Do better.
Yeah. Not only that, but there was a legitimate thing to be criticizing throughout that thing. If you really wanted to go that way, Booker McFarland makes an ayahuasca reference somewhere throughout the game when talking about Aaron Rodgers during a children's broadcast. Like, come on, man, you can't be doing that. But
know your audience, Booker.
Right. But first go. The only thing that I do think you could have a legitimate complaint about here, beyond the Booger stuff, is this has to be AI driven, right? Like, I don't want AI in charge of my football and how I watch football. This could be a problem. It's the rise of the machines, dude. Be afraid. Yeah.
Hey, if we didn't have to be afraid of the emergency management system alert that we got here on Wednesday, we should be okay with having cartoons as alternate football options for the kids.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, I'm just bummed after seeing that message come across my phone that that Manchurian Candidate software went off in my head, and now I got to go to assassinate somebody. Like, it's just terrible.
I mean, it takes some time out of your day, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it does. It does. And I mean, I'm trying to save ammo. Like, I don't want to like spend it on somebody. Like, that seems lame. I'd rather shoot a target. But thanks a lot, emergency broadcast government system thing that did nothing.
On to Better at Life.
All right, man. My Better at Life than Skip Bayless this week is for none other than John Schneider. Loved seeing him get all the flowers this week after the Seahawks dominating performance over the Giants in all of his draft picks and the reshaping of this team. One story that I heard did you know this, Brandon? I'm not sure that this was on my radar, that he had interviewed with the Detroit Lions for a GM position at some point during his Seahawks tenure. I mean, I knew that was kind of sort of a rumor, but Colin Cowherd, he put that out there as if it were 100% fact, in saying that he got more say over how the groceries were selected after that. And long story short, he's done an amazing job of turning over this roster, making it a lot younger, remaining competitive, and being just a wizard. This is the year, man. You should win GM of the year this year. Everybody's starting to recognize it. John Schneider, Better at Life than Skip Bayless.
Yes, John Schneider. Yeah, it was that right at the end of the 2020 season that I think he was being considered by the Lions, or they were pursuing him. It was right before he signed his extension. So yeah, I don't know if we really knew how much they were going after him. It was a really tight window. It was during the playoffs. And so, yeah, just probably didn't hit the news.
Colin said he interviewed. I had not heard that before.
No, I think all we heard was that the Lions were looking into, pursuing him and that sort of thing. I don't know if we ever heard about an interview.
Yeah, I don't know. fishy.
My better at life this week is for DK Metcalf. You know, he's had some problems early on this season with maybe running his mouth a little bit too much. And when you're faced with problems like that, you got to come up with solutions. And that's what DK is. He's a solution man. And he went on Rich Eisen and was talking about one of the things that he's planning to do to be better.
Other than that, man, I take ASL now on my off days.
What's that?
American Sign Language.
Okay. What caused you to do that?
I mean, I kept getting flags for my mouthing, so gotta sign my
Catfish!
talking now.
Come on, is that why? Really?
Yes, sir. That's what I got to do, man, to keep myself busy.
I kept waiting for him to come back and say like he had some legitimate reason for taking sign language courses. But if this is what it's going to be like, if he's going to be out there using sign language to trash talk his opponents that don't even speak sign language, I think this is awesome. DK Metcalf, better at life than Skip Bayless.
This is so much fun. We don't play the Dolphins this year, right? Like, I don't think we do. I really wish we did, just so him and Ramsey could be going at it and Ramsey running his mouth and then just watching DK like giving him all the signs. But I think for the most part, if it is trash talk and talk, I mean, everybody knows what the bird means. I think catfish you is pretty universal.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.